All right, good evening and welcome to our practice session on RC. Any question, any concern? Is there anything that you want to ask about today before we start? Huh? How's the prep going? I'm assuming that you by now started writing the mocks, and the writing of those mocks should obviously lead to your learning new things, identifying new areas of improvement, unlocking some new lessons. Right. So today you and I will sit down together and go through a passage which is based on philosophy. Right. So as usual, we will go ahead and solve it in two rounds, where round one is where you solve it. Round two is where you and I go ahead and discuss it together. Yes, gaming. Keep practicing, yeah. Keep practicing. Keep practicing. Keep putting in the effort. That should definitely help you. Okay. So let's start. I have a class immediately afterwards. So let's just go ahead, focus on the passage to begin with, and then we can continue this. Let me know once you're done reading it. Okay, so I hope you're done. Here is the next slide. Ten seconds, and I'll take you over to the next one. That's good speed, Yashika. Done. Ten seconds, and I'll take you to the next one. And here is the last one. And with that, let me now dive into the questions. Here you are. According to the passage, Romanticism did not. A, B, C, or D. You'll have at the max 90 seconds. I can in fact add the answers to this slide. Let's see. Let's experiment with a new way of dealing with it. So is it C? A? Time's almost up. All right, here is the next question for you. Question number 2. Answers. So I think Shivam is the okay. So Jigyanshu and Shivam. Okay, we're getting A, C, D. Anything else? Anybody who's picking up B? Okay, Jyotishka. Noted. So when you say confused, you typically are confused between two options. So you mentioned one of the two. Where is the other one? And why is the other one not mentioned? All right, let's go ahead and look at our next question now. There you go. That's okay, Yashika. Dekhte, we'll see. Forgot to start the timer. Mhm. And with that, let's now head over to our last question. Okay, so now that we are done, although I do have the next round added, but then I've marked the answers here, so I'll simply go back and then we can check this out. So, what do we have here? For over a century, Romanticism has standardly been regarded as a reaction against the Enlightenment. Actually, even this R should have been capitalized. So, you remember Enlightenment, a particular movement of the 18th century which focused a lot on reason, liberty, freedom, individuality. It was the age of enlightenment which led to a lot of progress in science. It was enlightenment which made the governance free from the interference of religion. We're talking about that era. And there are people who are saying that there is this movement called Romanticism, and it is considered a reaction against the Enlightenment. So, now see, Romanticism is another very well known era in our history where I'd say roughly around started but around 1790, and from 1790 it went on for another 50-60 odd years, so say 1850. So romantics, it is not really connected to romance. It comes from a different word which basically talks about romantic stories written in prose. It's not directly connected to romance. But what happened was that during the Enlightenment, there was a lot of emphasis on reason. And somehow emotions ended up taking a back seat. So came this new set of people who said that, yeah, we will talk about not the grand themes of the universe, but a common man. We'll focus on an individual and his spirituality. We will celebrate his isolation and his sadness. We will also celebrate nature. We will use a lot of personification, right? So, those kind of things, people who propounded those were called the Romantics. So, this sentence says that for over a century, Romanticism has standardly been regarded as a reaction against the Enlightenment. The primacy of aesthetics may seem to speak in favor of this story. Primacy of aesthetics. What exactly is aesthetics? Aesthetics is the philosophical study of beauty and taste. When you focus on reason, somehow you deviate from beauty, you deviate from taste. So they're saying the primacy of aesthetics may seem to speak in favor of this story, because on this interpretation, the Romantics replaced the Enlightenment's faith in the sovereignty of reason with a belief in the sovereignty of art and the affective and imaginative capacities. What is affective capacity? That's your ability to express and experience emotions, huh? That are involved in aesthetic experience. So far, we are saying for more than a century, people thought that Romanticism is against Enlightenment. And uh, if you look at it, Romantics focus a lot on beauty. And that somehow tells you that they are against Enlightenment, because Enlightenment was all about reason. This primary focus on beauty somehow confirms this. Huh? On this traditional interpretation, Romanticism is anti-rationalist or irrationalist, against reason basically. But now this is where the argument is going to take a U-turn. But while the romantic pursuit of the primacy of aesthetics marks a break with the Enlightenment, that yes, when it comes to pursuit of aesthetics, it is something. So people during the Enlightenment did not chase aesthetics. Romantics did that, and yes, that's something new. But then, regarding romantic aesthetics as anti-rational or irrational and as antagonistic, opposite to the core Enlightenment values, is unjustified for a host of reasons. So, there are people who believe Romanticism is against the Enlightenment, but the author says that merely because it focuses on beauty does not mean that it is against the core values of the Enlightenment. Next. So, for a host of reasons. So, here is your reason number one. The Romantics' focus on and praise for rational and autonomous criticism is continuous with the Enlightenment's commitment to the value of rational criticism. They're saying that there is this trait on which both the Romantics and the Enlightenment people, both of them agree. So, admiring Bertolt Ephraim Lessing's ideal of criticism and his devotion to independent thinking, Friedrich Schlegel writes, critique is the common pillar on which the entire edifice of knowledge and language rests. Rather than discontinuing the Enlightenment's call to submit every belief and every action to the authority of rational criticism, the Romantics are responsible for continuing the age of criticism. So, we normally say 18th century was the age of criticism, but these guys continued with it, and they took this age of criticism well into the 19th century. In that sense, they are the children of the Enlightenment. Then second, many of the core features of romantic aesthetics, in addition to criticism, like the relation between beauty, truth and goodness, the pursuit of unity among variety, significance of the imagination and the sublime, would have been impossible independently of key Enlightenment thinkers. They're saying that a lot of core features of even aesthetics that romantics use would have been impossible without these key Enlightenment thinkers. They gave you the platform, they gave you the basis on which you went ahead and talked about all of these core values. Then third, the romantic elevation of aesthetic feeling and the creative imagination did not come at the price of their faith in and respect for reason. The thing that yes, they focused on aesthetics, but it did not mean that they abandoned or ignored reason. Even Friedrich Schlegel, who is often considered the most enthusiastically inclined romantic, opened his lectures on transcendental philosophy by arguing that philosophy is a striving towards a knowledge of the whole person. In one of his fragments, he commanded, never tire of cultivating the intellect until you have finally found what is original and essential. So you're focusing on reason. And yet, in another fragment, he claimed that one of the two centers of genuine philosophy is the rule of reason. So, this basically tells you that they did not abandon reason, they believed that reason is important. So such proclamations challenge the alleged break between the Enlightenment and Romanticism as much as they challenge another standard interpretation of Romanticism, one that takes it to be a direct outgrowth of Sturm and Drang, a counter-Enlightenment movement that flourished in the 1760s and 1770s. So they're saying so far what you've learned tells you that Romanticism and the Enlightenment guys are not in they're not in opposition. At the same time, these also tell you that there are people who say Romanticism is a direct outgrowth of Sturm und Drang. But even that is not true. So briefly, this response to the Enlightenment expressed in works of literature, theatre, music, blah blah blah. They heralded individual subjectivity and the free expression of unconstrained feelings. So Sturm und Drang did that. No doubt the Romantics shared with this movement the belief in subjectivity and a call back to feeling. But regarding Romanticism as simply a continuation of Sturm und Drang finds no grounding in Romantic text. Is it? That's not right. So now you moved away and we've started attacking another comparison. In his review of Frederick Jacobi, one of the main sources of influence on Sturm und Drang, Schlegel declared only when striving towards truth and knowledge can a spirit be called a philosophical spirit. So it's not about just unconstrained feelings and subjectivity. You do look at the truth. You do strive towards the truth. So this tells you that Romantics were different from Sturm und Drang and not exactly a direct outgrowth. So let's start. According to the passage, Romanticism did not. So these are your answers. Let's start here. Romanticism did not include any place for reason. False. They did consider reason rather important. Check this entire paragraph. That's the core of this paragraph, right? And then, so A is not, so it did not include any place for reason. No, it did. Romanticism did not exclude faith in and respect for reason. True. Although they did move towards aesthetics, they did not do it at the cost of reason. And therefore, C is the right answer. B and D you guys already ruled out, so we can stick to that. Let's see. Which of the following is not a characteristic of Romanticism? Not, huh? So focus on this. So free and an unrestrained expression of feeling. Is it a characteristic of Romanticism? Check this. No doubt the Romantics shared with this movement the belief in subjectivity and a call back to feeling, which you can actually get from here. Unconstrained feelings. So this was also a characteristic of Romanticism. So this is a characteristic. We are looking for something which is not a characteristic. So A cannot be our answer. Individual subjectivity, same place. It was a characteristic. A belief in the primacy of rational criticism. So did Romanticism believe in rational criticism? Yes. But did they consider that primary? No. So this part is not right. Inclusion of philosophy and of seeking knowledge? Absolutely yes. Inclusion of philosophy, seeking knowledge. We'd once again get this somewhere around here. A striving towards knowledge. So, A, B, and D are definitely characteristics that we can find mentioned in the passage. C, because of this primacy, gets ruled out, and therefore that is going to be our answer here. Okay. Third, which of the following is true according to the passage? Let us check. Romanticism would not have been possible without enlightenment. True, false, cannot be determined. Sir, but yaar, I took you back to the relevant part of the passage, yaar. You can check, and there are two different places. You can actually get a segment of it, a part of it from the last paragraph too. So is this true? Absolutely yes. Remember that in that sense, there is this part that says that these are children of the Enlightenment. And look at this here, would have been impossible independently of key Enlightenment thinkers. So definitely true. Sorry, which question are we on this? So A is true. Let's look at B. Romanticism precedes Enlightenment. Nope. Romanticism followed Enlightenment. It came after and not before. That is why they are called the children of Enlightenment. Nobody has chosen C, ruling it out. Romanticism discontinued the Enlightenment's call to submit every belief and every action to the authority of rational criticism. Did they discontinue it? No. Passage very clearly tells us that they continued it. They took that age of criticism to the 19th century. So this is also false, and therefore A is going to be your right answer. And here comes the fourth question. According to the passage, a philosophical mind does what? What does a philosophical mind do? Does a philosophical mind strive for the cultivation of the intellect? Let us see if the passage mentions this somewhere. Never tire of cultivating the intellect. So, Romanticism wants you to cultivate the intellect for sure. Right? So, this is given. A philosophical mind seeks truth and knowledge. Truth is mentioned in the last paragraph. Knowledge is mentioned in the paragraph that we've just referred to. So even this is mentioned. A philosophical mind critiques the edifice of irrationality and of superstitious beliefs. Where are we getting this? Is this mentioned anywhere in the passage? Nope. So this is something that cannot be determined. So because A and B are both consistent with the passage, our answer is going to be option, right? So that's it for this particular passage. I'll just ignore the round 2 bit of this, and we will go ahead, pick up some new question types and engage in those in our next session, same day, same time, right? And before I sign out, here is something that I want to leave you with. Success is a journey. It's not an end point. Keep working hard, keep walking this path, and I'm sure that you will go ahead and reach success. Yas Gamin says, बहुत गंदा passage था. ठीक था, not that challenging. In case you're not very familiar with philosophy, then I can understand why you would feel that way. But in that case, I'd also recommend that you start reading more of philosophy. Okay, so that's it for today. I'll see you in the next session. Until then, take care, have a great time. I'll probably meet some of you at 7 in case you are in MBA Ignite English. And I have my class with you where we are starting our work on reading comprehension today. So take care. Catch you later. See you.